Thank you so much, Ayo. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 30 Minutes of Business on Business Morning on Sunrise. We'll start from the global space where oil prices ticked higher on Monday, even as investors weigh U.S. President Donald Trump's latest tariff threat, this time on all steel and aluminium imports, which could dampen global economic growth and energy demand. Look at the numbers for this morning. It's a whole 40 cents that's been added to Brent. That's about 0.5% at $75.06 a barrel, while WTI also the same percentage there. And then we see, but that's just about 38 cents. And so it takes it up to $71.38. And we know that the latest in this is that threat of 25% tariff on aluminium for Canada, and he made the announcement. He said that on Monday, 25% tariff, that's President Donald Trump, on all steel and aluminium imports into the U.S. In another major escalation of that trade policy overhaul. Just a week ago, the president announced tariff on Canada, Mexico, and China, but suspended those for its neighboring countries the next day, which is Canada and Mexico. In light of Trump's temporary back down last week, investors appear to be shrugging off, that threat of tariff for now. But I guess this is going to bring another side to it. But China's retaliatory tariffs on some U.S. exports are due to take off today, with no sign yet of progress between that and the talks between Beijing and Washington. Oil and gas traders are seeking waivers from Beijing for U.S. crude and liquefied natural gas imports. Now look at the Naira and see for last week, still around the below 1,600 is the safe place that we've seen. For Friday, we saw there was a gain of 2 Naira 71 kobo. That happened on NAFEX there, 1,503 Naira 11 kobo, and that is equal to 0.18%. But for the other windows, we see it was a drop for NFEM. It lost 0.03% to close at 1,500 Naira 41 kobo. For the CBN rate, we see 1,502 Naira 50 kobo, as just about the same for both windows at the close of trade yesterday. And then away from that now, we can tell you that the Commissioner for Insurance, Mr. Olusegun Omoseyin, has announced plans of a partnership with the Federal Road Safety Corps for the quick adoption of electronic passenger manifest. The Commissioner for Insurance, who was speaking at a meeting with the Road Safety Corps Marshal in Abuja, explains that that will guarantee speedy settlements of claims. Omoseyin also explains that the Commission is working towards resolving issues of delay in settlement claims.
You hear that you can open and see how excited I was when I had that word. Because that has done something critical for us in the insurance space. The ease of claims payment. You see, typically when accident happens, the challenge most underwriters or the excuse we get is, inadequate information around the passenger database, right? So you see lists flying. Today is 10, tomorrow is 25. So you are never really sure how many people were really actually inside that vehicle. So if we then have a process that electronically we have the manifest, then claims settlement becomes very, very easy. So I want to thank you and congratulate you on that achievement. Since the assumption of office, the team sat together and we came up with 5 key priorities, right? Enforcement, which we are talking about, is one of them. But the number one of our priorities is what we call safeguarding policyholders' interest and rebuilding public confidence in the insurance sector. What is the key element? The key element is this, is settlement of claim. My mantra to the entire industry is find a reason to pay a claim.
does look like the insurance landscape in Nigeria is getting really active there, and we see that reflect in the market. We've seen insurance stocks also active, getting the interest of buyers. Now let's move to Abia State, where the state government plans to revitalize the Enyimba Hotel as a way of boosting hospitality business, and it remains on course as the government signs an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, with Radisson Blu Group in Lagos. According to the managing director of Aba Investment Limited, the groundbreaking ceremony for the planned 250 rooms hotel will take place in a couple of months, beginning with a 125-room hotel. Meanwhile, the management of Radisson Blu acknowledges the potential in the relationship in growing their brand and believes it would be well explored for the benefits of both parties.
What we are signing today is for the redevelopment of the 125-room first phase to be managed by Radisson Blu. So we expect that this will create between 1,000 and 5,000 indirect jobs and about 500 high-quality jobs, apart from cleaners and all manner of people that will also be engaged to render services here. We also expect that this would help the state increase its IGR and have a more robust presence in the Nigerian conference and hospitality industry.
We're very excited by this opportunity, and we believe that with the right team being appointed, it will be a great success and a good journey both for the state and the people of Abia State.
I must also put it on record that His Excellency Dr. Alex Otti was hands-on at every point in time. Actually, I think it was last Monday, the 3rd of February, that he actually went through the final document and gave his final approval that we proceed with this. To get to this point, he brought to bear a lot of his experience in the banking sector as an investor, even in the hospitality space. And I'm happy with what we have. He's happy with what we have, and he's given his approval for us to proceed, knowing that this would, like the Director General of GADA had said earlier on, unlock the potentials of Aba.
Now to the central bank, where there are stories is suggesting that there's been a postponement of the first Monetary Policy Committee meeting in the year, which was slated for February 17. It's now perhaps being moved to March, following delays in the release of the rebased Consumer Price Index report that's being awaited by the National Bureau of Statistics. Reports say that policymakers are reconsidering the meeting because of that unavailability of updated inflation data. The first MPC meeting for 2025 normally is around January 27, 28, but it was moved to February, and now it's being moved to perhaps in March, and it's all connected to the rebased inflation and GDP figures, which is yet to be released by the NBS. Let's find out if there are implications to this, if we should be worried in any way. We have joining us for this conversation this morning Dr. Mude Yusuf. Dr. Mude Yusuf is the Chief Executive Officer of the Center for Promoting Private Enterprises in the country. So Yusuf, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. Yes. So we're supposed to have MPC February 17th. That's next week. It doesn't look like we're going to have it. And the reason is connected to the rebased number, because, I mean, mostly MPC uses the inflation number for its decision. Unfortunately, we've been waiting for the rebased number since the 31st. We're promised it to be on the last day of January, but we haven't seen it up to date. Today is the 10th. So I'm wondering, does this have a wider implication for the economy?
Well, it has some implications because, quite a lot of, a number of investors take a cue from whatever the policy position is, especially in the financial markets. Of course, people look at what the MPR will be, what the interest rate direction will be, and that will determine decisions, as to whether you want to invest in bond, whether you want to invest in stock market, how you move your resources. And because these decisions are already programmed by fund managers, by all those in the investment space, this is creating some uncertainty, and that, of course, is delaying is delaying investment decisions in critical areas, particularly again in the financial markets. And again, many of the investors in the real sector are also hoping that by now, at least we'll have had some indications of easing of the monetary tightening space. Because a lot of investors are groaning under the weight of these high interest rates. And because of the way things are going, we are beginning to see some gradual recovery, some gradual stability. So we're expecting that by the time we have an announcement from the CBN, that will give a signal to the direction in which this interest rate thing will go.
But I mean, some of the economists I've spoken to before now, even are expecting that, well, the most friendly position we are going to get is going to be a hold, because there's a whole lot of uncertainty going on. Perhaps the MPC will want to see the impact of some of the Trump's policies, you know, even the reforms that we say is building stability. So isn't it equal, not having the meeting, isn't it equal to a hold position?
Well, not exactly. Because the hold position comes with some certainty. When a pronouncement is made that we are holding the race, you are sure that at least for the next 2 months or so, you expect that rate to. But as it is now, you never can tell what direction it will go. And just as you said in your intro, these decisions are data-driven. And the NBS had promised that by end of January, we are going to have the rebased figures. And it's also important for the NBS to also communicate, you know, that, okay, we are shifting the date from this date to this date. That will also help the central bank and help all the investors in the economy. So that information and communication is also
I'm sure there's communication going on at the top between the NBS and the CBN, but I mean, even as a journalist, I've tried to reach the NBS to ask, when it was, I think it was on the 31st, that's the last time I tried to reach them to say, are we getting these numbers? And I didn't get any response. I haven't gotten any response up until now. So, I mean, I think as you have noted, this brings another level of uncertainty.
Exactly.
And perhaps this scare from NBS, because there's also been a lot of conversations around what method or what number, what data are they going to release, seeing that the new method that was employed for the unemployment data has made it almost, you know, not reliable or dependable at all. So perhaps they're trying to rejig, you know, to give us a better data. But I think, as you said, communication is
very important. I must give it to NBS. They have engaged in very robust engagements with the stakeholders. Even up till, I think, around 2 weeks ago or so, they were still engaging. So we must commend them for the engagement. But by now, I'm sure they will have taken sufficient feedback, you know, from their methodology and all of that, and decide on the way forward. And whatever it is, they should communicate that, okay, for a number of reasons, we are rescheduling the date in which we are releasing the revised figures. So that communication is important, both for the decision makers, I mean, I'm talking of the monetary authorities, and investors, and people like you, because you also owe the public the duty of informing.
Responsibility of keeping them informed.
Keeping them informed.
But Dr. Yusuf, what are you expecting from these rebased numbers? Well, we will be happy when we hear that our GDP is now bigger. Perhaps we can retain or regain our biggest position on the continent space. But there's also the talks that we might get a lower CPI, which people are asking, will it really capture our reality?
Well, in terms of the GDP, just as you said, we're expecting a much bigger GDP size because the rebasing will capture a lot more sectors. Because even in spite of all the challenges that the economy has been facing, some sectors have been growing and doing well. And, you know, a lot of structural shifts has also happened. And that will, of course, give a much bigger GDP, and that will help also in the perception. You know, that may not change anything dramatically here, but it will change perception of investors, whether locally or internationally. I mean, take, for instance, if we now emerge as the largest economy on the continent, that will be good news. Then it also helps, at least, for us to define the current structure of the economy, which sectors are doing well, which sectors have actually been elevated as a result of what has happened. Even this reform has also changed a lot, brought a lot of structural changes in the economy. So this data will help. It will help investors. It will help perception. And perception is very important. Perception is reality. So that is okay. For the CPI, of course, I was part of the stakeholders, one of the stakeholders engagement on the methodology. They are talking about weighting, they are talking about issues of spending, the number of goods in the basket. Yes, that is fine, but I don't expect any major shift, in the outcomes. What will change the outcomes for the CPI or for inflation figures in 2025? I think it's likely going to be the base effect. That's my expectation. Of course, we have some conversation again around the weighting, the distribution of what should go to food, what should go to restaurant, what should go to accommodation, and all of that. So all of this feedback has been taken on board by the NBS, and I'm sure that by the time...
So what's the delay, Dr. Yusuf? What's the delay?
We come back to communication. They are keeping everybody in suspense, and they need to communicate. That is very important.
Yeah, it's very important. But talking about communication, just hold your breath for a bit. For our DSTV viewers now, we have to lead you to the executive governor right there. There's a flag off in Adamawa State, the executive governor of Adamawa State. There's a flag off of the construction of the ultra-modern shopping complex in Jimeta, Yola, the capital of Adamawa State. The Right Honorable Ahmadu Umaru Fintiri is waiting for you there. That's our DSTV viewers. But for our other viewers on other platforms, for the international, the UK, and as well as the domestic, we're right here on Business Morning. And if you're watching on YouTube and you still want to stay with us on Business Morning, just switch to the next streamline and you will see this conversation. All right, so we're talking about communication. Yeah, and we do hope that they will communicate, because, I mean, if the NBA doesn't talk to the media at first, we are there to be used as a platform.
Exactly.
So if I have tried to reach out to them, we don't know what's going on, we don't know when to expect the data. We don't want another level of uncertainty to be built into the market.
Exactly.
Since we're getting a bit of stability when it comes to the currency and all of that. So I don't think this should come in. If there are things to be done, then, I mean, let Nigerians know.
Very important, because decisions in the marketplace are information-driven. They are data-driven. And the biggest source of data now is the NBS, as far as these macroeconomic indicators are concerned. So it is very important that we get an update from NBS on when we should expect.
We'll keep asking. I guess that's our job right here. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Muda Yusuf, for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're staying on this issue. Another perspective is what we have after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to watching Business Morning on Sunrise Daily, and we're still discussing the delayed rebate data from the NBS and the implications for the economy. We're going to discuss now with Anoluwapo Adekoya. She's a Senior Manager, Tax and Regulatory Services at Cardinal Professional Services. Please do come in. Good morning, Anoluwapo, and thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Good to have you. So what has Cardinal Professionals, what have you found about this delayed data and the implication for the economy?
Okay, for us, over the time we've looked at it, and we believe that this delay, we don't want to say that it's immediate tactics. We just want to say, maybe I will align with what I just, saw not so long, that it's maybe just to give us the suspense, and just not the suspense. Also for us to know that due work has been done. A lot of data is being collated, so much information have been brought in, new sectors and new sections have been included, as we can see, and also some, acts that culturally, as Nigerians, we believe that, maybe, the dark economy should not be included. Now they are being included. So I believe that it's just for them to have good time, ample time for them to, couple their records together. And I also asked about the implications of this delay. So we will just look at it from the view of, one of the things that was said during the program in Abuja by Dr. Deniro was that they are not politicians. The essence of, this exercise is to ensure that the economy and the status of, Nigeria's economy is properly placed. So I believe that the major implications of this will be that our economy would be, rightly structured, would know what we have currently, and also we could also welcome, investment and other benefits that we have.
Yeah, but they say they're not politicians, but we know that everything is political, and yes, we are hopeful and holding our breath. But what have you found can we expect from the numbers, and how will it affect the average Nigerian?
Oh, okay. From our table, really, we've seen that over the years, like I said earlier, the exercise of, rebasing the economy, that is not where it has to stop. What has to happen after the exercise is the major focus of, what our focus should be, even as Nigerians generally. What would happen? Even the numbers we get, what are we going to use them for? The implication and the implementation of this rebasing, that's what our focus should be. So from our table, we would just say that, starting from the public sector to the private sector, not just looking at the benefit or the status of our economy currently, we should be able to, create chances around this area for job creation, for opening up much more, foreign direct investment and other opportunities. That's what we'll find out. So if the government can really take this results that they would get and implement it, make laws and provisions to work in this regard, we believe that there would actually be a change in the economy.
And that these numbers will be realistic.
Okay, so the numbers itself, we are not going to doubt the efficacy of the number we are going to actually get. But what we would say is that we believe that everybody is joining hands together to make sure they turn out the best result, and we are trusting, in the National Bureau of Statistics to ensure that the numbers are actually going to be realistic.
Because we have the unemployment data that doesn't seem to be realistic at this time. And that perspective is growing every day, and it doesn't seem like anything is being done about that.
So at the grassroots level, like you said, that the unemployment data, I believe the way Nigeria is structured, I mean, I think even looking at maybe the northern side of Nigeria, you will see that it's almost impossible to capture data. Like, the people that are not even on record currently as we speak. So how do we want to capture that unemployment data? Well, we also want to believe that, just like the census would happen, we want to believe that the data we are getting, they will actually be correct.
All right. We also thank you so much. Anulu Akwadekoya, Senior Manager, Tax and Regulatory Services, Cardinal Professional Services.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Good to have you. All right. Now let's look at how the market closed for last week. The all-share index ended in the green. 1.38% is what we see, and at 65, went up to 65.592 trillion naira at the close of trade last week. Activity was more of a red color, volume and deals in the red. But, I mean, we see the really high number just compared to the previous week. And that's why we have that red value, however, scaled through 98.35 billion naira for the week's trade. Sectors, banking. I think investors in the banking counter last week, they went home smiling because the banking counter really did well. The Fugas especially led that pack. 4.66% is what we saw at the close of it. Consumer goods had some down days during the week, but I mean, overall, it was 1.61% in the green. Industrial goods, however, lost. It couldn't scale through at the close of the week's trade. Oil and gas, of course, shown. Insurance also had some downs, but insurance, I was saying earlier, we talked about NICOM and all they're trying to do, the third-party policy implementation, being given another face and all of that. That seems to be attracting investors, making the counter really active, and investors, well, I think they're seeing more prospects there once in a while. Once, some time ago, it was not even remembered, but the penny stocks in the insurance counter seem to be getting, and so at the close of last week's trade, we did see that positive movement. Top trades for the week as expected. The Fugas did that, and then top losers. On that, you have Suno Insurance, University Press, Multiverse Mining, and Exploration. Unfortunately, they were the top trades for last week. I wonder if we have the other markets. Doesn't look like we do have them Oh, there you go. The smaller OTC markets we see closed in the positive also, surpassed 1 trillion, heading close to 2 trillion. Even though activity here is not as fast as the major equity market, the NGX, but we see slowly building towards that 2 trillion. And we know that a lot of stocks had moved from here to the NGX, so you build your momentum here. And then, and also at the beginning of the year, we did speak to some analysts, market analysts, and they said there were some promises, especially in the oil stocks that are on the unlisted market. So perhaps a couple of investors want to put their eyes right there, and then we'll see what will happen. But never to worry, at 1 p.m. I'll be back with Ladi. I'll be giving you the market intraday numbers. That'll be at 1 p.m. during Business Incorporated. I'll see you then with Ladi. So for now, let's head back to the Sunrise Daily Studio.